because I was speaking about you last night to my students who are master's students in the program is Environmental Education and Communication at Royal Roads University, where I do some work. And this is the first week. We're just coming to the middle and end of the first of 10 weeks. And we do a lot of clean emergent knowledge related, a few liberating structures, that kind of thing in the first 2 weeks, because it's really important, I have found, and I've taught this course many times without these tools, and now I teach them with, and I really see the difference, because getting students to set their intentions with a question like, what if this course went exactly as you'd like it to go? It would be like, what? They start working with metaphor right away. They start working on the supports and resources they need. They start to develop this self-awareness as a learner and as a novice scholar. The baby steps into developing that researcher's disposition that they don't have yet, because it is different to take a course and do assignments than it is to create your own research. And you really do need to develop a whole new, well, it's related to you, but it's a new growth of your own self, of your own system, for a particular purpose. And so last night we had them practicing their learning metaphors, which I learned from you, actually. And they always love my metaphor that I came up with in your class on, I think it was dynamic teams, which is, I'm a lazy, friendly shark circumnavigating the globe. And we're getting a few juicy ones from this cohort as well. And they're learning to unpack their metaphors using the lazy Jedi questions. So I give them all the questions, but we really just focus on those two. Those two will serve them well throughout the whole course. We're going to be doing an emergent knowledge power of 6 exercise on Tuesday to help them arrive more closely to their research topic and possible slant of that research, which will move them towards their research question. And they're also learning to use those lazy Jedi questions to unpack other exercises that I've given them to sort of plot out all the various dimensions of the possible research they're thinking about. And so I find your resources I love all the clean resources, and I'm comfortable with everything from the smallest little video to the most heady academic article. But for them, I think your pieces are just so short and compelling, and you sort of cut through all of the worries, and you just say, try and use this tool. It's really helpful, and here's why. And I did tell the story of how I think you often or sometimes tell the story about the $1 million mistake that was narrowly averted because somebody thought to ask a clean question an engineer. So anyway, thank you for all the gifts you've given me, and I continue to use them somewhat ham-fistedly. As you know, it's not always easy to introduce clean to people who have other things on their mind, but I'm trying to be really relevant to these students and to show the value. And of course, over time, it will become hopefully more clear to them that getting out of people's way and giving people space to have elicited or facilitated from them what they don't know that they already know is really exciting, especially if you're going to conduct research with people. And even autoethnographically, even if you're doing research with yourself. And the more reflective kind, it can be much more generative and reflective, but also generative and creative if you have some clean tools to help you with that. So I can keep.
So to ask yourself the questions,
yeah.
What kind of, is there anything else about?
Yeah. Or like clean spinning, or like anything, or just remember to ask yourself one follow-up question. Yeah.
So I'm really curious about the application of emergent knowledge, laying things out in space in relation to this problem of choosing a research topic and a research question. Because my experience has been that that's a really big challenge for people as they move from studying things other people have done to, right, I've got to create my own thing now.
Yeah.
And they end up choosing a topic which is enormous.
Oh yeah, like 20 PhDs, right? I'm going to write 20 dissertations because my topic is so big. Because first I have to answer this, and then I have to go find that out, and then I better figure out that context. And yes, so that's one of the biggest challenges. The other challenge in this course, and this is the course where the students develop their research proposal, which they will take forward with them into a few more courses that are left to them in their degree program, and then they do their research. So their topic can change while they discover new ideas and new lines of thought, but they'll have the pattern of creating a proposal and sort of musing and figuring out what the topic is, and then how to frame it as a research question and what kind of research design is entailed in that kind of research question. And the one thing I know students really face in this course is a lot of trepidation and fear, so that it's a heightened sense of nervousness at the beginning of this course, unlike other courses. And I remember this from my own training as a master's and PhD student. So the emergent knowledge, I knew right away when I tried it myself. I actually haven't tried it on myself. I've tried it on lots of my friends and family, but facilitating them just at milestone day, birthdays, that kind of thing, or if they're stuck, or hey, why don't we try this? Will you be my guinea pig? And I have found twice now, and this will be the third time, that if I lead them through a power of six, an emergent knowledge process, so 6 times 6 sets of questions, takes us about 30 to 35 minutes. I leave about a minute for everybody to write a thought or jot a note, and just lead them from what they think they know about their topic that they've chosen, even if their topic is I don't know. That by the end of that 35 minutes or so, we have much more to talk about, and students are clear, at least on what they don't want to do, on what is, extraneous, what is not. Yeah, it might be important to the world, but I also discovered that this needs to be important to me too. So, what can I find in this topic area that I'm interested? If I'm an environmental educator and I'm interested in a project that would create a outdoor kindergarten for my school, what's already in the literature? I'm going to have to go find what's already out there, maybe find examples of what other people have done, and what is a new spin that I could put on it, because I'm also a very arts-based teacher. So maybe I could bring an arts-based flavor. And those thoughts arise as they are going through that particular process. And it's happening at the same time that I am having half-hour individual advising sessions with them. So those start this weekend, and then I have them throughout the weekend next Saturday as well. And so it's just a time of, fermenting, of letting things bubble up, letting the possibilities arise, but also, like you say, starting to find good reasons for not going in that direction and forgetting about that part. And really, I think the most beautiful thing is finding research that's authentic to one's own system, one's own soul, one's own history and location, just like very practically in various networks and domains and sectors. And, if I'm the head of human resources, I have a lot of access to things that I wouldn't have if I wasn't in that role. And I might be better off doing something in that domain rather than in law, unless there's some policy issues that I'm struggling with. But you see what I mean? It really helps students to situate their knowledge in a place that's suited to them, and to find research that is calling out to them to be done, and only by them.
And just
And
to
so
help people imagine this happening, how many students?
I have a small cohort this time. I have 11, but I've had 36.
And
I've had
they're
40.
all doing a process involving putting post-it notes on the floor or similar,
No, we're
all at
not
the same
doing
time?
post-it notes on the floor. We're just doing that. And what do you know about this? And what else do you know? And what else do you know about that? And what else do you know about that? And they're jotting notes. And I have given them a Microsoft Word form that, it can expand as you type in the fields. I can't figure out how to do it on a PDF yet, but maybe I should. I don't know. But it's just for our class, so it doesn't matter that it's, super formal or beautifully graphically designed. And I've also done a recording for them. So I make a recording of myself asking the questions so they can do this again for themselves. And I just ask them to hit pause every time I ask a question. And that's how they can use that tool forevermore once they're throughout the course and afterwards, if they find it interesting and they are one of those people who can't self-facilitate. They need somebody to ask them the question. And that's a lot of us, right? We want to have that sense of somebody being there with us, wanting to know. And so, yeah, that's what I've been doing so far in this course. And your materials are forever in my bibliographies. So thank you.
Thank you. So we've jumped straight into one part of this discussion, which is to ask you about what are some of the things you're doing with your clean in your work. But
Mhm,
the big thing I want to interview you about is something you were talking about at Metaforum, which is you pulled together a group of people
mhm,
in and around where you work who are your fellow travelers.
mhm.
And that just seems such a super useful thing to do. I'd love to know how you did that and what why you did that. So where did it start and how did you do that?
Well, it's so funny, when you ask the question, I think, well, like, it's not a big deal, Judy. It's like, wouldn't anybody do this? But I suppose not anybody would. And I'm just happen to be in a relationship to the clean language community. And I'm about 3 years into learning about clean. I have not done a ton of training. I've done some. I've done a bit with you. I've done a bit with Marion and Caitlin in their clean interviewing course because I felt it was important for me to be able to teach my students how to do that properly. And I've gone to Metaforum 3 times. This last time was my third time. And I guess it's possibly because I am situated in the university. I'm kind of an accidental academic who ended up being a prof. And I'm at a certain, in a certain place in the university where I talk to lots of different kinds of people and I have relationships with students, with former students and alumni. I have relationships with staff, people who are in staff positions, people who are colleagues, also fellow profs. But one of the women with me was the program head for this course I was just talking to you about, and I'm interested in what she's seeing in her groups of students now that are moving through a course that used to be very difficult. It was a pain point, as she said in the program, and she's finding that's really changed with the advent of clean in that. And then I also have people I've met in workshops. So there was going to be one woman in the panel who couldn't make it because she was ill, but she just happened to be at a workshop I did. And she was an international intercultural communications student and who was graduating. She wanted to talk about how clean was going to be something that helped her make friends in a new city because she found it very difficult to do that. And clean language was a way to engage people in a very different way than she had expected. So partly the thing about being a prof is I'm used to doing conference papers. Like that's the way you always get started with your research is to think, well, just going to throw something at the wall, take it to some people who know something about this or are curious about it and see what they think. And I had initiated at the start of my experiments with clean in my course, and that was 3 years ago. Um, because I think it was about 6 months where I was discovering clean for myself and thinking, I have to teach this research methods course. I hate teaching this research methods course. It's always so painful and students are so frightened. And I end up being totally enmeshed in their work and trying to help them think up ideas. And I'm thinking, what if clean could help me separate myself from my students, still be their guide on the side, but actually be their guide on the side and not messing with their systems. And so I initiated a research project through the ethics board at my university. And I was determined that after I tried my clean experiments, I would start recruiting and seeing if anybody from that cohort, once they were all done, wanted to come and talk to me about what it was like to use clean in that course. And then subsequently in their research, if they happened to use it. And so I already had that little research project going on. And that I think was one of the stimuluses for wanting to contribute to the Metaforum conference. And I started, uh, who was it? Was it you or Caitlin or somebody I was talking to said, um, oh no, that was the first year. Yeah, I got help from Metaforum the first year on what would you do if you were going to bring clean into a research methods course. And James Lawley and a few other people showed up, very helpful. Uh, and So I had that going on, and then I thought, well, I got so much help that first year, I better bring it back the second year, and I reported a bit on what I was doing in the course. And then this third year, I thought, well, a lot has happened since then, but it would be so much less boring if I brought some of the people who have encountered clean language because of some of the work I've been doing, and that would have been that program head, my colleague Barb Columbine, who has been using it in all her courses, and we're always planning to do little consulting jobs together and thinking of ways of getting clean into our work. She teaches a lot of design thinking and that kind of thing. And, clean questions are just wonderful little stealthy questions to bring into that process. And I knew that there would be a doctoral and a master's student that would be interested in sharing how clean had been really helping them, both at the beginning of their research process, the doctoral student, and at the end in clean focus groups and interviews with her people. And then I thought, who else? Who else is in a position to know something about this that isn't a student or I was trying to bring a little mini system together, I guess. And I was trying to think of diversity of uses of clean and different spaces in academia where it could be helpful. And so there was a woman I had met while doing a workshop for some First Nations Indigenous students who were learning, they were in a public administration program and they were learning to conduct interviews. And I came in to teach them some clean interviewing and fool around and play with that a little bit. And she had been a person who was documenting that. It was a pilot program and she was there to document the program and interview people later about what that program was like. And so she witnessed all of that, but she also recalled that many years ago, she'd met a person who had introduced her to clean, and she ended up conducting all of her interviews about that program using clean language. So I thought, well, let's get her in as well. So that's how that idea came together. I thought, and as I was doing it, I was thinking, oh, this is already making me so tired. Why do I do this to myself? I'm supposed to be semi-retired. Why do I bring these things upon myself? But everybody, I thought, I'm going to try. I hate coordinating, Judy. So I thought this is just going to be it's going to be like pulling teeth trying to get everybody together on the same day. But I thought it was essential for, if we were going to do it, that we should meet before we do it. And of course, I would be the impresario and I would get the bios and I would run the show. I would be the master of ceremonies during the panel. But we all managed to meet. Everybody said yes. They were actually really excited. And I basically asked them to bring a metaphor of what it was like working with clean in their domain and a story about how they were using clean. And that's how we brought our data together. And I asked them they all had ideas. We all collaborated on what we might do, how to keep it, because we had the problem of time. We only had 50 minutes and we had 7 people. And so it was one of my students who had some great ideas about what to do. Let's get a picture of the metaphors ahead of time and say, okay, we don't need the element of surprise for that. And let's see if Sharon will let us split it into 2 sessions. Okay, let's try that. So that was that leadership part was very collaborative. That wasn't for me by any means. The me part was just having the idea that I'd like to contribute to Metaforum, but I didn't have anything extra special to bring. But I thought this would be special if we could hear from different parts of the system. And
This
then
is
making
super
the ask.
special. This is super special because not many people do what you've done. What I'm noticing is that amongst the things you've mentioned, you take an attitude of curiosity and fun.
Mhm,
Let's play with this. Let's throw something at the wall.
mhm,
That's foundational to what you've been talking about all the way through this conversation, is you're using an attitude of fun
mhm.
and also having curiosity.
Yeah.
Those two things together seem to be an important part of what's taking shape here. Another piece that is not intuitive to other people who encounter these ideas is what you said about you're creating a system or you're bringing a system together.
Mhm,
A lot of people using clean and systemic modeling think about system in terms of a group of people who are in a room at the same time or on a
mhm,
Zoom call at the same time.
mhm.
But you're doing it at a different level,
Yeah.
a system across not only your university but beyond,
Yeah.
and finding ways that there are connections between people
Yes.
who otherwise perhaps wouldn't know about each other.
Yes. Yes, and partly that's because one of the things I teach is organizational communication and culture. So systems thinking is embedded in that. Now, it might not have been like 30 years ago, but it sure is now. And if I didn't know about systems before then, being handed that course to teach, I sure had to do a lot of reading. And I've had several students along the years who have adopted systems approach to complex problems like healthcare and that kind of thing. So it's just on my mind. That's how I think
Hmm.
about organizations. And as somebody who's often quite cynical about organizations and the waste of human potential in there, I'm always, thinking, oh, why couldn't we just find a way to tap our system and trust it?
Mm.
And all of the little people, all of us ordinary people doing our ordinary jobs, um, we know things that we don't even know we know. And if somebody just asked us, would this make sense? Would that not make sense? What else might we do? We could just be so much more, I don't even want to say productive, but just a thriving organization that's actually meeting its goals and its values and its actual operations and culture are aligned. And so I think that way. I think system-wise. And it's funny that after Metaforum, there's more people in our system now because there are people there who've contacted me. And, like when we have a little bit more time, maybe in the spring, I think I'll bring some of those people in to talk to some of the people that were on the panel with me and do some things at our university. And keep growing the system because it makes it, it makes it all more sustainable for us. Doing everything by yourself is impossible, and it's one of the reasons I retired early. There was no way to share the load of running a program or to share whatever important or teaching can be really difficult on your own. And now I always opt to co-teach. Just a little system of two can make the whole difference, right? And then if you have other people who've taught the course before, they're part of that system too, and you can go and talk to them about how did you encounter, like, what was this assignment like? I'm finding I'm not getting the results that I thought the students would be putting out there, and having those conversations just makes everything more relaxed. And when we're relaxed, we can be creative and we can we can ideate, we can innovate, we can do all those things we say we want to do. We can also, very importantly, like, innovation's great, but we can also preserve what's precious and make sure we never mess with that, and that we're always bringing it into our future with us, and we're quite conscious and articulate about it. So,
A little
so
question I have about the systems thinking piece.
Mhm.
Um, some people who've learned their systems thinking like 40 years ago will be thinking, well, that sounds rather rigid, and you've got to map whether the water comes in here and it goes through there and the music goes
Mhm.
round and round. But
Yeah,
these days, systems thinking has an emergence to
yeah, it's
it,
it's
a
much more
dynamic
organic.
systems.
Yeah, and it's much more organic, right? It's more like dendrites and mycelium and those kinds of messy, glorious systems. Also recognizing too that we're always embedded in many systems. You and I are nodes for many different systems that we might not even be aware of. And I was so glad to learn that David Grove got interested in all of that. And he hooked into that. I think it was a wise thing to do. And even if it's not like, even if we can never prove it, I think it's a more effective way to think about things, because then we avoid having blinders on. We are more able to think broadly, and we're more able to, I think, appreciate the power of one, like the power of one person to make a difference. And so that gives our lives meaning. And it invites us to stay awake and curious, as you say, and open to possibility and feel like our ideas might matter and our knowledge. So luckily, these students that I have, they take a systems course before they ever get to me. So they're already, when I talk about the metaphor of the human system, that psychogeography, or our system, as Kleinites call it, they don't mind that word, and they kind of know what I mean. And it's a metaphor that works for us in this course. So the curiosity piece, I think, is really important. It's the reason I love clean, I think. I find as a person who thinks a lot, much to my detriment, I think it's probably like a curse as much as a blessing. It's easy to get really cynical if you think that you've sort of exhausted the boundaries of knowledge and you know what's going on. Things can look a little drab and hopeless, and especially as I get older. And when I discovered clean, I felt like it gave me beginner's mind. I felt like it gave me a way to be really humble and comfortable in my humility, like not feeling like it was like I was losing my expertise or, ashamedly not knowing enough or whatever. You can imagine if you're in, if you're in the academy, you're supposed to know everything. But Clean gave me, it's just such a perfect out from that. And I just find it's so refreshing every day to talk to somebody who I think I know very well and to ask them some Clean questions or facilitate a little emergent knowledge session for them. And it's like, wow, there's a whole universe in there that was like totally fresh and new and sparkling with great insights and almost like just insights and meanings that could just make you weep with just with the depth of it all and uh, uh, it gives me hope because it gives we tend to the other problem with systems, too much systems thinking, is we lose sight of the individual and their unique preciousness. The fact that there's never going to be another Virginia and another Judy, and that we have experiences and a personality that we seem to come into the world with, and we encounter the world in a particular way, and nobody's going to know it the way we do, and nobody's going to have the same questions of it. And I find that really beautiful. I guess it's the same reason I read novels, and I love stories other people write for me. It's because I want to learn about a new person and about what they know and how they see. So I'm hoping that by bringing the Clean language into this course and into the not just into the teaching world, but into how colleagues and faculty conduct themselves, and maybe eventually, if I keep at it with my little fellow group of fellow travelers in the university, um, maybe it's something that we can seed there, and people will see the benefit of it, and the leadership will have the courage to let this happen. And if they don't, because it all depends on the individuals in those roles, and but maybe there will be people there who just take this into their own lives, into their homes, into everywhere they go, and it just becomes a part of who they are. I'm just one person, and I can't do everything, and I'm not a core faculty member anymore. I am retired, so I just work on contract. So I'm not in there the same way I used to be. But in some ways, maybe I have more influence now, because I'm just
Mm.
lightly bringing Clean and things asking, well, what else might we do with this? What could we do? Where could
So
this be?
I'm really curious. There'll be people watching this who will have previously been saying to themselves, I've just learned some Clean. I'm on my own. I don't know anybody else who knows about this. There's nobody in my neighborhood who knows about this. I've only just moved here. I don't have any friends here. My boss won't allow me to do anything experiment. What would you say to them?
Well, the first thing that popped into my mind when you asked me is I would take myself on a little Clean spin or some other short self-reflective exercise to say, well, what do I know about that? Well, I know that I don't know what to do. And what else do I know about that? Well, yeah, but maybe I could reach out to a couple people I know who will humor me and offer to facilitate them. Ask them if they'll let me practice with them. The minute you've practiced with a couple of people and shown them how fun it is and how great the information you get is, you'll have some people who are part of a very loose little network of yours, and they might be willing to do a little bit more with you as you learn more. I would also say, so that's the place to start. And then you have a common language with at least two people. When you say Clean language, they know what you're talking about. And so you can relax around those people and you don't have to go through your spiel about David Grove and, all of that stuff. Uh, the other thing I would say is if you can afford it, do some training because you're automatically connected to a little Clean community just by virtue of doing that. And I say that advisedly because, my finances are constricted, and I'm sure they're far less constricted than many people's. But if you can, find somebody who you can take a course from and take advantage of free trainings if people offer them. It's a way for you to just entice yourself so much that you might save up for a course or a workshop. And take advantage of all of the free resources that are out there so that you and practice, practice, practice. Practicing is hard. I'm learning painting right now, and I hate practicing, but if I don't practice, my painting's never going to change. And I'm never going to have that facility that I want with if I see something, can I render this in some way on a piece of paper? And so just little studies, little tiny interventions, asking your family questions about what they want to eat for dinner. And is there anything else about that potato salad? It's like you might find out that they actually like vinegar potato salad and not creamy, right? So those are the two things I would say. And we are now globally linked through the internet. And there are little clean groups out there. See if you can find one. I don't know, Judy, is there like a free space where people can go? I don't know.
There are a number of spaces nowadays. So
Yeah,
there are lots. There are most different spaces associated to different clean language trainers, but there's
yeah.
also on Facebook, there's Clean Language Open Community, which is free and available to anybody.
Yeah, so that's a really good place to just like plant your flag and say, I'm here. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I really love this and I want to be part of this. And and then also, if people ask you to help, help. Even if you feel like you're just a newbie. Like I feel like a junior clean person. I don't feel like I'm particularly skilled. I just practice a lot and I'm doing interviews with students and people for my research project. And I found I've done about 7 interviews now, and I feel very comfortable now doing a clean interview. I did not feel very comfortable for the first 2 or 3. And yet, even then, the data were so much better than the way I used to do interviews, where I take hours and hours and get really bonded and have great conversations. And I just wouldn't have any good data to bring to my research question. And so I'm starting, that's the other thing. The more you do this and the more you reach out to people and just tell people what you're doing and that you're interested and try it out with them. Don't try it out on them, try it out with them. And you're going to find that you just develop an ease with this and things will start showing up in your life. And you can ask yourself the appreciative question, you know, if I would say practice some metaphor work and say, if I was connecting with people who are also interested in clean in a way that totally suited my life, it would be like what? And then just start unpacking that metaphor, and there might be some secrets in there as well for you. And if you can't self-facilitate, write those questions down on a piece of paper, tape them, and play your voice back to yourself. And that's another way to do it. I feel very lucky, Judy, that I actually have. I'm quite an introverted loner person, but by virtue of the work I've done for the last 20 years, I have a workplace that I can connect to. Not everybody has that, but like the student who was ill and couldn't make it to the panel, she was going to start using Clean just to network, just to, and not in that cynical way, but upon meeting people, actually ask them those questions of what would you like, is there anything else about that? And what kind of whatever, and be sincerely listening in that exquisite way, right? And ready to parrot back a few of those precious words that that person has given you. And that's the corner of the blanket. You grab that corner and the blanket starts to emerge as you follow your nose. And if you're a curious person, that whole blanket will reveal itself eventually, and it'll be your blanket and not mine.